If anyone can hear us, they can probably hear my dog snoring. All right. We are live. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a brand new week. I hope that you've had a fantastic weekend around here in Louisville, Kentucky. We had a lot of rain, but the sun's out, and it's supposed to be a pretty nice day. Tomorrow, my son has a track meet, so I get to volunteer for that. Yay. But yeah, that's where we are. So let's get real this week. I am super excited to welcome my guest this week. Dennis Shiao is an independent marketing consultant who works with brands on content marketing, product marketing, and social media marketing. Dennis curates an email newsletter called Content Corner. Dennis ran and completed the 100th running of the Boston Marathon, his one and only marathon. So I am so excited to welcome Dennis today. If I can get us both on screen.
Yes.
All right. So you used to run 5K, 10K races, and then what? You started upping it to a marathon?
Oh, yeah. Then my goal was just to run one marathon, just to say I ran one.
Okay.
So I built up to be able to run a half marathon, which I completed.
Okay.
And then the opportunity to run in the Boston Marathon was amazing, and then to be part of the 100th running was like a live stream.
That's
now
amazing.
For Boston, Boston requires qualifying times, which means any person just can't apply to the marathon. You have to qualify at designated races around the world.
Right.
And because so obviously I've never run one, so I'm not going to qualify, and I would never qualify anyway. So the lesson here is it's not like how well you run, but who you know. So the story is that so I was living in New York at the time. My sister was in Boston, and she was working for Ocean Spray, the beverage maker,
right,
that was a corporate sponsor of the Boston Marathon. So she worked a channel to get me a spot. So I was able to get in as a runner for the marathon, even though I didn't qualify. So that's how I was able to get in.
Oh my God, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So it's who you know. So would you
It's
say
who you
that's
know.
the biggest lesson that you took away from that and that you took into your marketing career?
That's right.
It's a big lesson. It's important.
It is a lesson. Yeah. I'm not suggesting like that's the key to life is like you're using connections to get ahead, but it was helpful in this case. And I ran it.
Networking is important. So that's good.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
And it was like,
awesome.
it was a record turnout. And my time was it was 3 hours and 55 minutes, which as my only
gosh.
one and only, to be under 4 hours was to me a huge accomplishment.
That's a huge accomplishment. I am not a runner, but I do run on my treadmill, but I will never call myself a runner. Because I'll run like 20 seconds, be like, okay, can I walk now? So, but I take my Peloton classes. I told you I was up early this morning too, but I'm still not a runner. I don't think a marathon's in my future. It's not on my bucket list. So, but that's really awesome and super cool for you to be a part of that. So
it was.
Okay, so we move forward sort of into your career, and you've run this marathon. You've learned that networking is important. So tell me a little bit about your journey getting to where you are now. And I know you're launching Attention Retention. Is that right? You're in the process of that?
Yeah. Well, it's a business that I've had for a couple years, and I've been working in the business, but the problem is it's kind of like the cobbler's shoes what is the analogy? The cobbler's kids' shoes.
Yeah.
I haven't even launched my website. So I purchased the domain. I have a draft site sitting that's unpublished, and so part of my goals this year is to launch the website. But the business was launched.
I was the only one on screen, but now we're both on screen. I'm sorry. It's a technical Monday.
No worries.
But we can hear you. So
excellent.
I know that feeling about the cobbler shoes. I have the same issue. I've talked about it a lot, that like for a few years I was totally off Twitter, not at all on there as myself, and then kind of came back because I decided I needed my agency to be out there, which is really why I started the live stream. So I get that.
Yeah.
So congratulations on getting close. When do you think you'll be launching your website?
I was planning to do it like in January, and it's now, what is it, April? It'll be this year. It's probably like I would never work on a client project with such a
Right.
loose time frame.
Right.
But I should probably set a goal to launch it so that I can kind of like finishing the marathon, so I can cross the finish line.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. It's good to have goals. So
that's right.
tell us a little bit about what attention retention is and what's your objective? What's your mission with it?
Sure. So right now it's just a one person consultancy. So I spent most of my career working in full time roles. I actually have a split career. The first half I worked in IT,
Okay.
and the second half in marketing for the last 15 or so years.
Okay.
And I did marketing at a lot of B2B technology companies in full time roles. I went out on my own in 2018. It was largely as a result of a layoff, and I found more freelance work than another full time offer.
Yeah.
So right now it's just me, myself, and I working with a bunch of technology companies here in the Bay Area in Silicon Valley.
Uh-huh.
But potentially, since I've incorporated as more opportunities come, I'm considering adding additional staff to build up like larger projects similar to what you're doing at 520 East Brands.
That's great. That's great. Yeah,
Yeah,
I have found, I got to a place where I just didn't have the bandwidth to do this myself. So by bringing on other people, we could scale. I could make the company bigger. And I've
right,
also found that having people who specialize in certain areas is so important. Whereas, I know a little bit about a lot of things, but my teammates kind of specialize in particular areas. So I have one that I text her all the time, remind me what the specs are for Instagram Reels versus stories. And she's like, oh, I'll tell you one more time. But it's because she's got it all just second nature. She knows it so well. And that's kind of like not what I know second nature. So
right,
so it's good to have a team, and especially when you've got a team who are better at it than you are, then you
right,
can really be able to sell some services because there's only so much we can pack in our brains.
right.
Um, so yeah. So
Yeah, I agree.
with these brands that you work with, I think it's interesting that you're still working with the IT world because you don't really think
Mhm.
of the IT world as being so like, let's push our marketing. But I think that that's
Right.
it's interesting that you're doing that and kind of giving them that niche, especially I would assume in the Bay Area, there's a lot of competition for different kind of tech companies.
Right. Yeah, I think it's good to have an IT background. So I've like there was one company that I work for that is a data warehouse vendor.
Okay.
So and I write case studies for them. So to be able to not only understand what's happening with how they deliver value to their customers,
Uh-huh.
but to take that knowledge of that IT knowledge and translate that so that maybe a business user who's reading the case study gets the business value. I think it's a nice combination of like the left side and right side of
Yeah,
my mind. Yeah,
that's great.
to
So
merge
when
the
you're
two.
working with these companies, I'm assuming you're working with all different types of content when you're thinking about how do we market these brands. So, I'm partial
Yes.
to social, but what kind of
Yeah.
content do you like to focus on?
Are you asking from like creating the content for a client or consuming or both?
Both. Yeah, both.
Both. I think there's a common one that I like, which is long form content, both
Hmm.
how I like to consume content and the types of content I like to create. So that could be like a 2,000 word blog post where I have some leeway to go deep on a topic,
Yep.
or it could be like a gated asset, like a white paper.
Okay.
And then for my personal interests, like two of my big interests are just reading articles about business and sports.
Okay.
And I prefer like instead of a game recap, which I will read just to see what happened, I prefer like the in-depth personal interest stories about athletes. So
Okay.
like really long form sports articles are what I really love reading.
Ah, that's interesting.
So
We're complete
yeah,
opposites. You must be able to
yes.
focus really well. Whereas I'm like, tweet, tweet, squirrel. What?
Yeah, they are
But that's
quite different.
interesting. Yes,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. But that's
yeah.
interesting, and I appreciate that you like those stories about sports figures. I have a son who's an athlete and kind of a sports nut, and I feel like until he came into my life, I really didn't know much about sports or really appreciate it. Like, oh, the
Uh-huh.
playoffs are on, oh, the Masters are on. Like didn't
Yeah,
really resonate with me. But I feel like now I get into the stories of the people, and
yeah.
I could watch like this weekend we were watching videos of past masters interviews, and those kinds of things are just so interesting to me because it puts such a human spin on the business of sports.
Right.
And so that's really interesting. Who's your favorite team?
Yeah. I have, let's see. So I watch the four major sports here in the US. So and I'm originally from New York. So I have a split allegiance. I
Okay.
root for the Yankees and
Uh-huh.
the New York Giants.
Okay.
And then here in the Bay Area, I root for the San Jose Sharks and the Golden State Warriors.
Awesome. We're a Yankees
Yeah.
family here. So my husband's from Northern
Wow.
Jersey. So yeah,
Excellent.
yeah, big fans. My
Excellent.
son's room, when he was a um, toddler and we decorated his room, we got all of this fabric that's made out of the pinstripes. So like his
Uh,
Yankee room. It's kind of cool. And he still has some of it, even though he's
Excellent.
almost
I love it.
15. Yeah, yeah, huge Yankee fans here. Um,
Excellent.
so, one of the things that I know that you've started, and I don't know how old it is, but you've got the Bay Area meetup, which you graciously invited me to be
Yep.
a guest on. So tell me how that started and how it's evolved through the pandemic and where you kind of see it going.
Sure. It started in 2015, so we will be 6 years this year. And yeah, so it's been going on for a while.
Hmm.
We used to meet once a month in person in the Bay Area.
Okay.
I was inspired from meeting. So I live in San Mateo, which is in between San Francisco and San Jose.
Okay.
So those are like two larger cities, and there are often back pre-pandemic there were a lot of marketing events in those two cities. But
Okay.
I'm in the middle, and there was nothing that nothing that happened that much close to home.
Okay.
And I attended another friend's meetup near where I am, and I was inspired to start my own. So literally, just go to meetup.com and create a meetup. It was originally called San Mateo B2B Bloggers Meetup, so it was very specific and niche.
Okay.
um, but we grew from modest roots, and for the first 4 or 5 years, we met once a month in person. During the pandemic, we like right when March 2020 hit, we shifted. We had to cancel a couple of meetups that were scheduled because it was we couldn't get together anymore in person,
Okay.
and we moved from once a month to once a week on Zoom. And so now so meetup.com has a global audience, and now people were finding our meetups because they could attend any one because we make them free,
Right.
the online ones. And as long as you're awake during that time, you can just join the Zoom link. And so we were probably like 500 members before the pandemic. We're now up to 1,200 because people are
Whoa.
just finding us wherever they are.
That is so
So it's
cool.
been amazing. Yeah.
That's really fun. Well, so the first one I went to was when Bernie was on as your guest, and I went because Bernie invited me to go, and I was like, "How are you doing this? It's a pandemic, and we both live in Kentucky." So I went, to see it, and I was like, it's really cool. And then I had such a good time meeting all those people when I was on that day and just kind of talking about live streaming, from a dummy's point of view. Is kind of
That's
how
right.
I think
Yeah,
of
that
it.
was a great talk that you did.
Yeah, yeah, it was a lot
Yeah.
of fun. If anyone wants to see it, I have the link to it on my blog post about this episode. So it's on my website, 520eastbrands.com. But yeah, it was fun. And that's really cool that you have grown it from such this small local get together to 500 and then to 1200.
Yes.
Do you
Yeah.
think it'll keep going that way, even post pandemic? You think you'll stay virtual
Yes.
and have people keep coming?
Yeah. So we're excited at the prospect, maybe later this year, maybe next year, that we'll get together in person again. So we'll only do that when it's completely safe to do so.
Right.
But even when that day comes, the online's not going away. So we'll still. It might not be as frequent as every week, but we're going to keep doing it online too.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
we're getting closer every day to when we can all be in person because both of us are now vaccinated.
That's
So
right.
one of these days I will get to give you a big hug. I can't wait.
That's right.
Someday
Maybe
we
in
will meet in
Cleveland
person.
at
Maybe
Content
in
Marketing World.
Cleveland. Yeah, I'm
That's
planning to
right.
go. So that's
Yeah, me
in the
too.
plans. Oh good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll see you
Yeah.
there.
Okay.
Well, awesome. Well, until then, Dennis, thank you so much for coming. I'm so sorry about the technical issues. Who knows what was going on? I guess it's a Monday, so that's what we
Yes.
get, right? But thank
Exactly.
you for sticking with it, and I'm glad that we got to have our conversation. You've come a long way from your marathon Congratulations.
Thank you.
And
Thanks for
yeah,
having me.
and I'll see you out on Twitter. So thanks for coming. Have a
Sure
great
thing.
day. Okay, thanks for coming. I'll see you soon. So, everybody, thank you so much. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. I'll see if I can get some editing done today so that this is a little bit improved. I'm glad that Dennis and I got to have our actual conversation. We had such a good time. If you or someone you know would make a great guest on Let's Get Real, find me at 520eastbrands.com. You can also tweet me at 520eastbrands, which is usually where I am on Twitter. And I did, in all of this technical mumbo jumbo, forgot to put up, if you want to reach out to Dennis, here is how you reach him directly on either Twitter or LinkedIn. I hope that you will join me again next week when my guest will be Christina Garnett. You may know her on Twitter as that Christina G. She'll be joining us from HubSpot and sharing a whole bunch of knowledge. So looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing you. Have a great week. May all technical difficulties stay away. Keep it real.